Reggie Blinker alert. Yes, I'm back right at the start of this video to let you know that the microphone, once again, like it did last week, very similar fashion, it's not working. It's just decided to delete itself. I don't know what's going on. It's like it deletes microseconds worth of audio and then suddenly it doesn't line up with the video and it's just a mess. It's disgusting and I've had to use the camera audio once again. If there's any audio technicians or microphone experts out there that know how to fix it, then let me know in the comments, but I'm going to have to try and sort it out. It's a pain in the ass, to say the least, but I will let you go and watch this video in peace. I just thought I would let you all know. So is Josip Juranovic leaving Celtic? That is the question on everyone's lips at the moment. Last night it was a bit of a surprise as the news broke that he was expected to leave Celtic. Since then we've had a crazy 12 hours. The updates have came and gone, things have changed. And there's a whole story to go alongside it. But Josip Juranovic, surely he's not going to leave Celtic, eh? I'm going to cut to the chase here and saying this is the second time I've recorded this video. I went 25 minutes the first time doing this whole video. The microphone, decided I need to find a fix for it. I don't know what's going on, so it's broke. So out of sympathy, please hit like and subscribe. It would be much appreciated. I'm not going to go as long as 25 minutes this time because I simply cannot be bothered. My mental capacity has reached nil point. Nothing. It's gone. No points. Nothing left. I cannot speak for another 25 minutes. So we're going to try and get through this. Like and subscribe. By the way, only 59% of viewers are subscribed. 41% of you haven't subscribed to the channel. So that'd be much appreciated. Let's not waste any more time. Let's get this over and done with. So Josip Juranovic, what the hell is happening? Last night, Fabrizio Romano, of all people, tweeted out and broke the news that Josip was ready, or expected, sorry, to leave Celtic Football Club, and it came from absolutely nowhere. I was sitting there, came out of five-a-sides, checked my phone, and couldn't quite believe what I was seeing. It was the first we'd heard anything of anyone leaving the club, or anyone of significance anyway, and it was the first we'd certainly heard of Josip Juranovic being linked away with a move from the club. Don't get me wrong, a very talented footballer, one of the best we have on our side, and someone who has been a real revelation of a signing since he joined only last year. But little did I think I would ever be seeing a tweet this summer window about him leaving the club. I couldn't quite believe that when I seen it. As we said, Fabrizio Romano was the one who tweeted out the news, and Fabrizio Romano, if you don't know who he is, he's probably the most renowned and respected journalist in world football at the moment. He is someone who breaks all the big stories, he seems to have all the best contacts, he seems to be the most trusted. Basically, whatever he says is sort of gospel. And journalists still get stuff wrong, no matter how trusted they are. And Fabrizio Romano's had a few things that haven't quite went the way he's probably expected or his sources have told him. But usually, the majority of the time, whatever he says is gospel. So when you see that news break, for as much optimism as there is that you're hoping something goes wrong, the panic starts to set in. The reality starts to become a little bit more... it hits home a little bit more, because I'm suddenly thinking to myself, okay, is Josip Juranovic actually leaving? And the reaction on social media was universally the same when it came to the Celtic fans. We were all sort of gutted, we were saddened, we were scared at the thought of Josip Juranovic actually leaving the club. But there's been so much that's happened since then that has changed that, and we're going to cover all of that. Now, if Juranovic was to leave the club, it's easy to understand why, and it's easy to understand why there is clubs interested. Now, you know, hopefully, as we're going to talk about in a moment, that's going to be postponed till another year or so, till he actually does leave the club. But, you know, he's had a fantastic season for Celtic. He's been brilliant for Croatia as well when he's been called up to the international stage. It was only last week, I think, against France, he had a fantastic performance. You know, rightfully so, clubs around Europe, and especially in the English Premier League, are going to be picking up interest in our star right-back. He's still very young. He's got a lot of good qualities that a modern full-back has. Celtic are probably in a very lucky position that we've actually got him. It was a fantastic piece of scouting, a fantastic piece of business for us to get him through the door, because he's someone who I'm not saying right now is a world-class fullback, but he's certainly got the ability and the potential, the versatility, and all the tools in his locker to go and make that push to become a world-class fullback. He is that good. I've said it before with players like the guy behind me, Moussa Dembele. I've said it with players who have been evident they're a step above Celtic. They're a level above Celtic. I think Juranovic is in that bracket. I think he's in that column of player. I think he's like a Moussa Dembele. And I don't like to put Celtic down. I don't like to put the Scottish game down. That's not what I'm doing. But sometimes there are players who are just a little bit higher than the ceiling that allows them to reach to in this division. And I do think he's one of those players. So no doubt teams are looking for him. No doubt that there is interest. But Celtic need to do their best to protect their players. So then things changed this morning. I woke up saddened that Juranovic could be leaving the club. But then I checked Twitter again, just like I did when I came out of five-a-sides last night. I looked at my phone and suddenly he's not leaving. He's done a Leonardo DiCaprio in The Wolf of Wall Street. He has done the Jordan Belfort. He's not effing leaving. And I am chuffed again. Suddenly, how things change. What a wild 12 hours for both Josip Juranovic and the Celtic support. So the Croatian media this morning revealed that Josip Juranovic is currently happy at Celtic and doesn't want to leave in case he squanders any chance of being part of that Croatia 2022 World Cup squad, because he's a regular at Celtic. He's playing football at Celtic. He's a guaranteed starter at Celtic. And that's something that isn't kind of guaranteed with a move away to, say, an English Premier League club. One thing that was very vague about the Fabrizio Romano tweets, and one thing that wasn't said, was the clubs that are apparently interested. It said that he was expected to leave, but we heard nothing else about who it could be to and how much it could be for, or who he's met up with, who the contacts are. There was nothing else to suggest, well, this move could take him. So I'm only presuming that right now he's looking at himself in a position where, you know, there's a chance he can move to a side in England and not start. You know, he might lose his place as a 2022 World Cup player and a starter at that. But he's going to get that opportunity to play for that with Ange Postecoglou's Celtic. So I'm hoping that the Croatian media is correct in their reports that he's happy to stay here for that reason. I do suspect it means that January onwards we will start to feel the nerves of losing him. But if we can keep him from now till then, that itself is a positive for Celtic. It's a guy under contract to 2026. There are clubs in England interested. We can demand a lot of money. And I don't know who the clubs in England are. It could be anyone from a Nottingham Forest to a Liverpool. It could be anybody in that whole division. I just know that we can try and get a lot of money for him if we're sending him down there at some point. So Isaac Anti-Sucic, he tweeted this morning, boom, just like Adam Cole, Josip Juranovic to the Premier League. Right now, no. As per our sources, Juranovic is happy at Celtic. He plays regularly, and in less than a year he's become a fan favourite. Also, he doesn't want to jeopardise his chances for the World Cup in Qatar. Celtic want at least £15 million for Juranovic. That was his tweet. He is, I think, a Croatian football journalist who was very vocal amongst the time when he was signing for Celtic. That was pointed out, by the way, shout out to John McGinley of 67 Hail Hail. He put up a tweet earlier that I seen talking about how he was very sort of involved in the reporting of his move to Celtic. And I think he also appeared on the 67 Hail Hail channel, so shout out to those guys. And shout out to John for pointing that out earlier. So your man Isaac Sucic here seems to be someone who was in the know before with Josip Juranovic, and I feel it could be quite trustworthy again when it comes to being in the know with Josip Juranovic. And it seems to be all the talk of the Croatian media right now that he is happy at Celtic. But the big part of that tweet that we haven't touched on is the price, the fee, 15 million quid Celtic want apparently if he was to go. I think we should be aiming higher, 20 million, 25 million. People might laugh at me, and I'm not saying that's what he's worth, but when you're looking at a player of his quality, with his stock at the moment, who's in contract to 2026 at Celtic, when right backs are so hard to come by, I think we should be trying to fleece out as much money as we can from these clubs who are interested. 15 million is a good starting point, but boy oh boy, aim higher and higher. We deserve to make as much as we make out of these players. You know, these are guys that we turn into real quality, and we should be taking the money for that. So it looks as though Juranovic won't be leaving, to answer the question of the title and to answer the question at the start of the video, which I'm sure we're all happy to hear. It's been a wild 12 hours for both Juranovic and us as supporters. This is a guy ultimately who has, I think, Legia Warsaw, and we played for him for a year left to come to Celtic, so it's not uncharacteristic, you could say, of Juranovic to move on after a short stint at a club. But I'm hoping that your man Isaac Sucic here is correct and we can all move on. But I wanted to talk about my opinion very quickly on the thought of Juranovic maybe leaving the club. So I posted that tweet, and I was trying to remain optimistic that he would stay at the club, and now we're at the point where it looks so he will stay at the club, which is great. But one thing that I touched on, and one thing that I think has to be highlighted and strengthened is he's a player that we cannot afford to lose. Where we are as a football club right now, we cannot afford to lose Josip Juranovic, no matter what the cost is. We are now at a point where I think we are trying to transition back into being a Champions League club, which means trying to keep our best players. And I know there's people shouting at me right now and commenting, we're not in a position to do that, it's not the Celtic business model, we need to take up money when we get offered such large fees, and that is perfectly understandable. But I think there's also a way where we can get a large fee for Juranovic, but he can also be such a significant part of the continuity between what we have right now and what we're going to be moving forward. And if that means keeping him for another year, that is so important to Celtic. And that's why I'm happy to hear that it looks as though he will stay at the club. We're not in a position where we can be scrambling for another fullback. We're already looking for a left back. We need that sort of strength and quality as we move into being a Champions League club once more. And Juranovic is a really one-of-a-kind player on that right-hand side. I think we'd struggle to find someone quickly enough to take his place on that right-hand side. And let me make a controversial comment. Tony Ralston is not that guy. As much as you and me may love Tony Ralston, as much as we much think we've seen him improved, and as much as people want to say that he's the starting right back, he's not. He's nowhere near the level of Juranovic, never mind anybody else. And he's not good enough to be a starting right back for Celtic in the Champions League. 6 games in a group stage. He's not. And that's sadly the case. I think he's brilliant. I think he's came on leaps and bounds. I love him and I adore him now. But I just don't think that we can take that naive gamble of playing him as a Champions League starting right back when we lose Juranovic. And of course we could bring in another right back, but I just think that now is not the time to put ourselves through that scenario. I would love to just keep him around. I really can't highlight the significance of that, the importance of keeping him. And I know I've actually seen posts of me in forums, people saying that Ryan 118 character, he hates Ralston, he doesn't want to see him do well, blah blah blah. And for a long time I was obviously very critical of Anthony Ralston, but if you've watched me for the last year, you'll know for a fact I've given him every bit of credit he deserves. I've loved the guy, I've supported the guy, and I've wanted him to do really well. I just think that we all know deep down he's not the guy to be starting the Champions League. We've seen that before. And now is a big test to see if he's improved and if he can cope in the Champions League, and this will be another step for his improvement, his development, but I would rather not take that gamble. Juranovic needs to stay around here, and that's, I think, for any fee that's thrown at us. You look at other clubs in Europe, I think they always do a good job at trying to hold on to players for a little bit longer and doing things right. And I think Celtic need to act like a big club and try and give the players the reason to stay here and play and fight for Celtic. We need to improve as a football unit, and by doing so you keep your best players for as long as you can. But that's basically it about Josip Juranovic. That's the whole story. We'll see if it develops any further, and hopefully he will not be leaving the club. But talking about players potentially leaving, let's switch our attentions to players potentially joining. I lost my train of thought there, didn't have a clue where I was going. Alpha Semedo, a name that came really out of nowhere today. I've seen his name linked with us for a couple of days now, but in terms of the big story breaking this morning while I was actually recording the first version of this video, was one that struck me by surprise. Reports coming from Portugal that Celtic are set to sign Alpha Semedo after agreeing a goal? Yes, I hope he scores plenty of goals. After agreeing a deal with his club right now, Vitória Guimarães in Portugal, over an initial loan deal with a mandatory buy clause, according to the reports over in Portugal. This one really just flew out of nowhere. I think it was the Daily Record who broke it over here, but the story in Portugal is being reported that a deal has been struck and he is ready to become Celtic's next signing in this transfer window. Portuguese central defensive midfielder, which I think would put everything to end about the Vinicius Souza talks. I think that might be finished if we do bring in the likes of Alpha Semedo, but it would see him join on loan this season with a permanent deal in place for £2.5 million and a further £1 million in add-ons. following that. So you're talking £3.5 million central defensive midfielder from Vitória Guimarães in Portugal. Had spells in the Championship before with Nottingham Forest and Reading, made a lot of appearances for them, and it is the Diario de Transferencias, or Transferencias, who says the deal has been agreed and a contract is in place. A 3-year deal at the end of the loan spell, so a 4-year stint at the club essentially, becoming a permanent member of the side. Wow. That really came out of nowhere today. Of course, we know we want a central defensive midfielder, and it does make a lot of sense if Vinicius Souza is going to go elsewhere and he isn't going to be joining Celtic. This is a guy that looks decent, and we're going to look more into him this week. This video's been going on long enough, so I'm not going to do the full-on scouting report of him, but that's basically all you need to know. Apparently, the deal is done. Now, this is one thing I'll say. Apparently, there's been a lot of done deals this transfer window. I feel like I've been reporting on 45 different players at this point who could be joining Celtic or who have already joined Celtic, and this is yet another one here, but it does look like this one's got a lot of substance to it. So there you go. We'll have a look at his career and such a little bit more as the deal progresses, and his stats and such, but big story. 1 in, 1 out? Nah, 2 in, because Juranovic isn't leaving, so I'm counting him as in again. That does it. That's today's video. I've spoke for a long time. This should have been up ages ago, this video. The fact I had to record it twice is very annoying. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll see you all next time.